Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello dear students, welcome to another lecture. In this class, we are going to begin with the third poem of Class 8 Nagaland Board Alternative English, which is Macavity The Mystery Cat. Now this poem, written by T.S. Eliot, clearly talks about a cat who is considered to be highly mysterious. There's a lot of suspense which revolves around this cat, and the name of this cat is Macavity. So we in this poem shall read about all the things, the events, the instances that made this cat so mysterious in nature. So, do you have a pet cat? And have you ever noticed anything mysterious about your cat? It is not easy to say whether every cat is a mystery, but Macavity is surely one. And what is it that makes Macavity a mystery cat? We are going to read and find that out in our poem. So let us begin reading. Macavity is a mystery cat. He's called the hidden paw. For he is the master criminal who can defy the law. He is the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair. For when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. So, Macavity is a mystery cat. And what is Macavity known as? The hidden paw. Now, what do we mean by paw? Paw is the the feet of the cat. So, the feet of the cat, they have been called hidden. Why is Macavity called the hidden paw? Because it does not leave any trace behind it. It goes, it commits a crime, and then it totally disappears from that place without leaving any trail behind it. For he's the master criminal. Now just see, that has been called as a criminal. What poetic device do you think is used here? So here we are using personification because an animal has been attributed human-like characters. An animal has been called as a criminal, and that too a master criminal. So this poetic device is personification. So Macavity is a master criminal that can defy the law. Defy the law, that can actually disobey the law also. He is the bafflement of Scotland Yard. The New York police, nobody is able to find him. He is a bafflement for them. He leaves everybody baffled and confused. And the flying squad's despair. Flying squad refers to that, group of policemen who can reach the area of crime in, a spick of a time. They can be very quick. The moment they get a call, they're always, on toes in their police vehicle, and they are waiting for them to be informed. At the moment they are informed, they simply and very quickly reach the position, the spot where some crime has been committed. So neither the Scotland Yard nor the flying squad has been able to find him. He has made the Scotland Yard baffled. Scotland Yard is confused. The flying squad is despair. And despair means the flying squad is highly disappointed with itself for not having been able to find this cat. For when they reach the crime scene, Macavity is not there. Because the moment they reach the crime scene, they are not able to find Macavity there. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every law. He breaks the law of gravity. His powers of levitation would make a fakir stare. And when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. So the poet again says that Macavity is one, creature, is one animal which you can never find anytime, anywhere. There is nobody like Macavity. He's broken every human law. Not only is this cat so capable of breaking the laws which are made by the human beings, but also the law of gravity. Now, what is the law of gravity? That anything which is, at some height, it is going to fall down. This is what the law of gravity states. But Macavity has actually broken this law as well. Why? Because he has powers of levitation. He can fly in the sky. And this power of Macavity to fly in the sky makes even a fakir stare. Fakir refers to a saint, a person who is believed to be very wise, very powerful, full of intellect and wisdom. So even a fakir is forced to stare, is forced to look at Macavity when he flies in the sky and wonder in amazement how he manages to do so. And when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. And again the poet says that when you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. Again, this line, as you people can see, is repeated. When you reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there. What is this poetic device in which a line is repeated? This poetic device is known as refrain. Refrain is always used in a poem to talk about something which is very important with respect to the theme of the poem. Here, this line, when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity is not there, has been repeated in order to make the readers understand how brilliant this cat was, how good a criminal this cat was, because the moment somebody would reach the crime scene, they would never be able to trace this cat. So what have we read so far? That Macavity is known as the hidden law. Not only the Scotland Yard, but even the flying squad are confused and disappointed with themselves for not having found this cat. The moment they reach the crime scene, this master criminal just vanishes, disappears from that scene. Then this cat is so brilliant that not only has this cat broken the laws made by human, but also the law of gravity and can actually fly in the sky. And it is this law of gravity that makes a fakir also stare at him, look at him with wonder. Let us move ahead. You may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air. But I tell you, once and once again, Macavity is not there. So the poet says that if you want, you may seek him. Seek him, you may try and find him in the basement. You may try and look at him in the air. So you may just try and find him everywhere. But I tell you once and once again, Macavity is not there. You will not be able to find Macavity anywhere. Macavity is a ginger cat. He's very tall and thin. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. His brow is deeply lined with thought. His head is highly domed. So, now in this stanza, the poet describes the physical appearance of Macavity. How does the Macavity, this cat, look? So, he is a ginger cat, ginger brown in color. So, Macavity is brown in color, is very tall and thin. Now again you can see he pronoun is used for this cat. So clearly personification is used. So the cat is brown in color, he's very tall, he's very thin, and you would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. Sunken in, his eyes are deeply sunk, in the socket. So he says that if you look at Macavity once, you are going to be able to identify, recognize him because of his eyes, because of the way his eyes are sunk. His brow is deeply lined with thought. Brow is deeply lined with thought means on his forehead you can see lines. And you can all see, you will have lines on your forehead when you are in a deep thought, when you are thinking about something very seriously. So his brows, his forehead showcase that he was always thinking, he was always engrossed in deep thoughts, and his head is highly domed. Head is highly domed means he has a very big head. And this big head signifies all the big ideas and big thoughts that continue to go around in his mind all the time. His coat is dusty from neglect, his whiskers are uncombed. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. And when you think he's half asleep, he's always wide awake. Not only that, his coat is dusty. Coat means his fur. His fur is very unclean. It is very dirty because he neglects it. He does not pay any attention on cleaning himself, and therefore his fur is very dirty. His whiskers are uncombed. Whiskers refer to the moustache of the cat. So his whiskers are also never combed, and he sways his head from side to side. Sways, moves. He moves his head from side to side with movement like a snake. And this swaying of the head from side to side, this movement of the snake, of Macavity from one side to the other side, has been compared to a snake. Just like a snake sways from one side to the other, so does Macavity. And since here we are making a comparison between Macavity and a snake, using the word like. So what is the poetic device that we are talking about? Simile. Simile is a poetic device in which we compare two things using like or as. So, the cat always sways his head from one side to the other like a snake. And when you think that the cat is half asleep, when you think the cat is sleeping, you are wrong because he is always wide awake. The cat is actually awake. The cat is very much in its senses. So this stanza talks about the physical appearance of Macavity. It tells us that the cat is brown in color. It has got eyes which are sunk in. It has got lines on his eyebrows and a big head. Moreover, the fur of Macavity is very untidy and dirty. Whiskers are uncombed, and he keeps on swaying his head from one side to the other, just like a snake. And when you are mistaken that Macavity is half asleep, he is actually wide awake. Let us move on to the last stanza. Macavity, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. For he is a fiend in feline shape, a monster of depravity. You may meet him in a by street, you may see him in the square, but when a crime's discovered, Macavity is not there. So, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. Now, if you remember, this line also is repeated again in the poem. So, again, we are talking about refrain. Not only is this line repeated, but this word, Macavity, we have repeated it twice in the same line, and rather 3 times at the end. So when a word is repeated more than once, it is repetition. So when a line is repeated, we call it refrain, and when a word is repeated, we call it repetition. So there is refrain in the poem, there is personification in the poem, there is simile in the poem. These are the poetic devices that the poet has incorporated in this poem. So, for he is a fiend in feline shape. Feline means cat, belonging to the cat family. Fiend means a devil. The poet says that this animal, this cat, Macavity, is actually a devil in the shape of a cat. A monster of depravity. It is a monster which is full of moral corruption. Depravity means moral corruption. It is a monster which has not done anything, which has not left anything which is not wrong. So morally it is corrupt. It is a monster. It is a devil in the shape of a cat. You may meet him in the by street and you may meet him in the square. The poet says that it is at times very easy to find Macavity. Very normally you might meet Macavity in a by street. You might meet Macavity in a square also. But the moment it commits a crime, Macavity is not there. So normally you might find Macavity anywhere, but the moment it commits a crime, it is impossible for you to trace Macavity. So my dear students, we come to the end of the explanation of the poem. So in the first stanza, the poet talks about the fact that Macavity is also known as the hidden paw. Macavity is basically a huge confusion for the Scotland Yard, that is the London police. It has left the flying squad also highly disappointed because the moment they reach the crime scene, they are never able to trace Macavity. Then we have read that Macavity not only disobeys the laws made by human, but also the law of gravity as it can fly in the sky. The fakirs, the saints, which are supposed to be the wisest of all, are also forced to look at Macavity with amazement and wonder because they are not able to understand how come this cat has such magical powers. Then we are described with the physical appearance of Macavity, that it is a ginger cat, brown in color, eyes sunk in, lines on the forehead. Macavity has got very untidy fur. It has got the whiskers of Macavity are uncombed. It sways its head from one side to the other. And you would feel that Macavity is sleeping, but it's actually wide awake. Also, the poet ends up calling Macavity as a devil in the shape of a cat, a monster of depravity, a monster who has broken all the moral ground. And this is how the poet describes Macavity the Mystery Cat. Let us move on to the discussion of the back exercises now. Okay. Is Macavity a cat really? Do you think Macavity is really a cat? No, we believe that it is a human being because after all, being such a master criminal, can only be done by a human being. So only cat has been used as a metaphor to talk about a human. If not, who can Macavity be? I have already told you the answer. It is a human being, and the cat has been used as a metaphor to describe this human. A master criminal. Who is a master criminal? Is the one who defies law. The Scotland Yard is baffled. Why is the Scotland Yard baffled? Because they are not able to trace Macavity. Dash because Macavity moves faster than them. Who? The flying squad. The flying squad is in despair. Why? Because Macavity moves faster than them and just disappears from the crime scene. A cat, I am sure, could walk on a cloud without coming through. Which law is Macavity breaking in the light of the above statement? So, the law of gravity. Read stanza 3 and describe Macavity in 2 to 3 sentences of your own. So we've described Macavity already, that Macavity is a brown cat. It is very smart and intelligent, has got deeply sunk eyes, lines on forehead, untidy and uncombed fur and whiskers, and has got a swift movement like snake. Say true or false for the following statements. Macavity is not an ordinary cat. True, it is not an ordinary cat. Macavity cannot do what a fakir can do. False. Macavity has supernatural powers. I would not say Macavity has supernatural powers. Macavity only had the power to fly. Macavity is well dressed, smart and bright, false, untidy, unkempt, dirty. Macavity is a spy, a trickster, and a criminal, all rolled in once. True indeed. Okay, having read the poem, try to guess whether the poet is fond of cats. If so, why does he call Macavity a fiend and a monster? So yes, we do believe that the poet is fond of cats. That is why he's ended up writing an entire poetry on the cats. But he still ended up calling Macavity as a fiend and a monster because of the portrayal that he has put this cat into. He's portrayed this cat to be a monster. He's portrayed this cat to be a master criminal. And that is why Macavity has been portrayed in this light, and the poet has called it as a fiend or a monster. Has the poet used exaggeration for special effects? Exaggeration means when you talk about something over the top, okay, abnormally. Yes, the poet has certainly used exaggeration for special effect. He's talked about Macavity's capability to fly in the sky. Then again and again referring to the fact that Macavity, the moment you reach the crime scene, Macavity is not there. So these things add on to the fact that Macavity has been put forth as a very brilliant and amazing. So with this, my dear students, we come to the end of this poem. I hope the poem is clear to you. So I shall see you all now in my next lecture.